Do you want to go with the king of the jungle, or would you rather go with the guy that's like grinding his ass off to get to the top, right?
Here's one of the greatest motivators, right?
You know, how do we create a team environment with a great culture where we don't have to police it, where it's policed for us?
Welcome back to another episode of the Mission Control Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stearns with Ascend Digital Agency. We've got a very, very, very special guest who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyways. Fuck it.
Whoa, man.
Eric Reno. What's up, brother?
So happy to be here, man.
Yeah. It's been a long... Dude, I'm so happy to have you. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad that we could finally get our schedules to mesh and give the people what they want. And whether you know it or not, you want it. Because we're going to have some good content here today. The episode's proudly brought to you by the team over at Roofer. If you need instant roof measurements, instant quotes, clean and pristine proposals that give your prospects no choice but to choose you, hit the link in the comments. Team of Roofer will take care of you. I got a question, all right? And you seem like a smart guy. You got the answers. So I'm going to see if you have the answer to this one. Why can't you trust the king of the jungle?
Because he gets comfortable. When you're at the top, you get comfortable, right? There's nobody, you get a sense of security. That's why I don't trust the king of the jungle.
Okay. I mean, that's actually a very well thought out answer, but it's actually because.
Oh, dang. Dad jokes.
Yeah, dad jokes. So, but I mean, that was a great answer. So on the spot, you came up with that. So kudos to you. What should we start? Let's start at the top. You know, a lot of people that are watching this, they probably know you from YouTube. You know, you're in the social media groups. You're big into roofing. In fact, we were at a trade show, and I'm used to people stopping me, talking to me, and we say hi, we shake hands, we catch up. And, you know, I had the privilege of walking through the Roofing Process Conference in Orlando with my guy E over here. And it was like I was fucking invisible. And we got stopped like 79 times between the time we left my booth and went to go grab lunch. So it was pretty incredible. Good for you. Have you always been into roofing? Like, where did your journey start?
Yeah, I mean, I got thrown in. Like, my brother's best friend's uncle was just starting to subcontract. And he needed some guys to help clean the ground for the day. And he offered us $10 an hour cash, which was good money back then, believe it or not. And that was it. I carried garbage cans. Like, the first job we did was this huge mansard. It was actually like a restaurant, right? And I seen jackboards up there, and I got to the bottom, and I looked up, and I was like, dude, this is like death shit. Like, there ain't no way I'm getting up there. I don't know how anybody would get up there. And I just cleaned the ground and just, you know, cleaned with the magnets, and then, dude, I just got addicted to it, man. It just kept going. I mean, but that's where it started.
Mm-hmm. What did you want to be when you grew up? When you were a kid?
That's an interesting question. Shit, man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't have a good answer for that. When I was, you know, young teen to like end of my teens, I was very lost and very, you know, I didn't have any choice but to survive, let alone what am I going to do with my life, or what am I going to be. It was just like, how am I going to eat today, and how am I going to stay out of jail, was really the only thoughts that I had. But when I was like a young kid, I don't know, I probably wanted to play for U of M, play football for the U of M, or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. So you'd mentioned, you know, kind of forcing to focus on like necessities and staying out of jail. Why was staying out of jail a priority for you, or why was it top of mind? What was the circumstance around that?
You know, going back through all the YouTube videos, I don't know how much of this I've shared, but side note, have you listened to the new David Goggins book? It's called Never Finished. Okay, listen.
I've not.
I just started this 2 days ago, and the reason I'm saying this is he goes all the way back to the beginning of stuff he used to hide, right? And he brings it out, and he's talking about how it created this monster and almost an alter ego, right? And the reason I bring that up is like, I don't know how much of the story that I used to just hide away, or I just don't tell because either I'm embarrassed or like I'm so much further than now, so I don't want to be judged. But I mean, for back then, I mean, if you leave a youth at 14 years old with no supervision, right? What do you expect them to do, you know? So, I mean, for me, it's like I've always had this insatiable craving for success, whether it was like the right way or the wrong way. And it wasn't like bad, like I'm not out stealing or robbing people or anything like that. I've never, been a thief. But survival and to make money and to build and processes, whether the processes are not good processes or they're good processes, like the evolution, right? Sure. It's like, it's all about the evolution of what's there and what's then and what's now. So that's how it was back then, right? Like, I mean, I didn't have somebody like, hey, go to college, hey, get good grades, become a doctor, an attorney, a lawyer, a stockbroker. And it's like, I would like to have done that, that would have been cool. But I wouldn't be here with you today, so who knows,
Yeah. And if I hadn't got suckered into spending $50,000 on a political science degree that I never used, I wouldn't be here with you.
Well, it's funny how the journeys cross.
Yeah, no doubt. So, in my experience, people that have that type of upbringing, they typically have like grit, they have moxie, they have that hustle, and it usually serves them very well later in life if they can get through whatever the start point is and that end point. For some people, they never get out of it, right? And they do end up in and out of jail their whole lives, or they end up dead. Some people break away, and sometimes it's at 18, sometimes it's at 30, and everything in between. What are the biggest lessons that you think you've learned, from that upbringing that you had that have applied to your day-to-day later in life and have been somewhat responsible for your success?
I think, man, we're getting deep into this, huh? It's okay. I'm good with it. I don't know. I guess it's just that survival instinct. Like once you've been, in that place, right, and hopeless, like actually hopeless, then everything past that is hopeful, right? Like once you've crossed that bridge, it can only get better because it really can't get worse. And when I'll use my brother for an example in Dynasty, when we built, well, I can't say we because he did way more work than I did, but I was there to help him. I don't want to ever take any credit, for the work and the growth, besides like the little parts that I've done. But in the beginning, when he was first getting his feet wet with bigger customers and bigger things, and it's like he was at a point where he was starving, where the business consumed him, and he was, trying to build a business with no money and going through everything that he was going through. And it's like, I could have just bailed him out, right? But it's like, unless you feel this and you feel this pain, like it's hard to get to that next level, right? You got to feel this pain. You got to feel this, because when you feel this, it gets you there, right? At least it did for me. I don't know.
Isn't that shit so hard to do, to stand by and watch someone you care about suffer, but that the alternative is, like you said, bailing them out, then they likely become entitled. It's harder to appreciate things if you have, people talk about trust fund babies, right, and how they have a tendency to turn out because everything's kind of handed to them. It's challenging, but kudos to you, man, and how'd that work out for you?
Dynasty's going so good. We just shot a video, yesterday or the day before. We shot a video there with 2 locations now. We have all these machines and all these big, you'll see it when we post it. It's impressive. It's cool.
Nice. When did you start Paramount?
January. And I started as a subcontractor company. Like I never, at that time I wasn't in the space to eventually I wanted to have my own company, but it wasn't like, hey, we're going to start out installing our own jobs. It was just my thing to do sub work.
Sure. What did you started doing sub work? At what point did you transition into running your own jobs?
At the beginning I was trying, but my priorities weren't particularly perfect. And, as far as, I didn't have the finances, and back then it wasn't like it, all the SEO and all the stuff. It was still a thing, but it wasn't really a thing. So what I used to do is I would just, I heard of somebody locally that was my age that started their own business, and they just invested heavily into Angie's List. They built a nice website, invested heavily into Angie's List, and now he's doing all this work. So I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I would work with the crew, right? I'd shingle and nail till 6 p.m. and then I'd go to McDonald's and I would literally like shower in their sink, right? Get all the, get as clean as I could. And then I would go do sales appointments from like 6 o'clock to 9 p.m. And then at the beginning, I could keep my crew busy for a week, and then I would sub for 3 weeks, right? And then a month later, I would keep my crew busy for 2 weeks and then sub for 2 weeks, until it snowballed into like me keeping myself busy. So that's kind of how it like transitioned into, and once you get a taste of it, and like, it's hard to just like sub anymore when, you get the, the whole thing.
Yeah, you get the bigger piece of the pie. I think that's a very sensible way to transition, because like the scariest thing, like for when I started my business, was like the fear of what could happen if this thing fails. And if you can, have a situation where okay, basic needs are met, crews like the rest of my guys are taken care of in a sub role, and then you can, put it like grind, right? Put in those extra hours, fucking bird bath at McDonald's, get cleaned up, run some sales. Fuck yeah. I think that's I know another contractor, Austin Fricker. He's out of Tulsa. Similar story. He was working for another company and then kind of moonlighted doing the sales and things, and it makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you did it, man. You've come a long way. It's
cool.
incredible.
It's funny too when you're like, I'm 38 now, and it's like when I tell these stories, it's like, did they even exist, or am I just like making this shit up in my head? Does this ever happen? But it's crazy how like long the days are and how short the years are, right? It goes by so fast. And it's like, oh yeah, this year's 10 years in business. It's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I don't know.
Happy 10-year anniversary.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's
what well, throughout that 10-year journey, because I know there's, everyone hears like the statistic, X amount of percentage of roofers or contractors go out of business in the first 3 years. What do you feel were your biggest threats in the first couple years of operating that you had to work through?
For me, I was always like, and I still am, I'm always like, my people are first. Like, as long as they're fed, like, we're going to get through this, right? So I'm not sure that, there was jobs that I've done where I've walked up and I'm like, how the hell are we going to accomplish this, right? Like, how are we going to get out of this unscathed? And, you just put your head down and you do it. But back then, 2013, 2014, 15, 16, these were all good years, so it was after the recession, it was after all of that. There was doubts in your head, like, oh, I'm 26 years old and I'm selling against, 10-year-old, 20-year-old companies. Why would anybody choose me? Like, there was doubts like that, right? But it's like, how cool is it now in my position to where it's like when I meet a young hustler that is like, reminds me themselves of me, how cool is it to like give them the work when it's like, dude, they're going to be around forever. And that's the same thing, like, why is the king of the jungle the king? Like, do you want to go with the king of the jungle, or would you rather go with the guy that's like grinding his ass off to get to the top, right? Or, but yeah, I don't really remember any crazy, hurdles that I had to jump besides like, being disciplined and keeping my shit together. But I've always, when you have nothing and you get a little something, it's like, I'm like a, eagle protecting my eggs. I'm not trying to just like go and like, buy Teslas and shit like that, so.
And I think that's like it's a good point to make, because I think that a lot of people, like some people, they start making money and it's like, okay, we're going to spend 3 months out, run it on credit, hope for the best, because we're just going to make more. And it's like, it's a grave mistake for a lot of people.
I think, and the power of social media, like, the power of being, addicted to like likes and attention, and, especially for the next generation, the generation coming up now is like, they're seeing people in these cars and houses and it's like I get the fake it till you make it thing too, but when you're financially draining yourself, we go to sales appointments. These houses are $600,000, $800,000, $1 million houses, and then they're asking us to finance, a roof, and it's like, like, dang, it just always catches me off guard because it's I don't know. everybody's got a different mindset, and I'm not here to judge anybody or cast doubt or anything like that.
No.
But for me,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm trying to plant as many trees as I can in as many places so that, one day, like, freedom will be freedom, right? I'll be free. I can do what I want to do. So, I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. You'd mentioned, from where you came from and like starting with nothing, and you're like an eagle protecting your eggs, right? And I mean, fear is one of the greatest motivators, right? So the fear of going back to having nothing when you get a taste of something, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think discipline, and that's one thing I've struggled with. For me, it's like staying disciplined to, like, as you grow a company and as you become more visible and you have more relationships, there's going to be no shortage of opportunities that are presented to you, right? And a lot of them are good, right? And I have to pass on them because it's not the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And it's interesting as you get older and as you have more relationships and things like that, and those things develop. It's interesting, like, how that becomes the challenge. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I'm like, I mean, I might as well just overdraw off my bank account $400 because I'm going to get charged the same fee if I do $40 or 400, right?
That was a thing, man.
And you would, yeah. So you'd like kill for the opportunity to have an opportunity, which is interesting. But like as I've continued to grow, that's been the biggest challenge for me, is like staying focused and disciplined and saying no to opportunities that are presented, because every single thing that you take on is going to take away from your core focus, right? And something is lost, and no matter how small or big or seemingly inconsequential it is, those things start to add up. But we've recently said yes to an opportunity, an idea that I came up with.
I love it. I think it's a great idea. I can't wait till you get it in motion.
Yes, sir. So what are some things that you do outside of roofing?
I've recently taken up golf, and golf is interesting because I played for like 2 years when I was younger, but I was more interested in drinking and just being out with the boys than I was actually playing the game. Plus, since I have a very like hyper energy, being disciplined in golfing and practicing was the furthest thing from what I wanted to do. But recently I took it back up, and I like it, and all the friends, all my friends and the guys here play. So I golf. I try to golf at least once a week. I hunt. I love hunting. Once September, October comes, you'll barely see me in the office. That's what I wait all year for that. Obviously the family stuff. I got 4 kids and wife, and so all that stuff is important as well. But other than that, just build and invest, and pretty simple, I guess.
Now, I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but anyone that I've talked to, and a lot of smart people I've talked to, they're like, diversify, right? So you got a business, so you got to diversify. What type of things do you invest in to keep the portfolio diverse?
Real estate. I've been doing it since, my mentors did real estate, so you always think the grass is greener on the other side. And I'm like, every time I'm around these guys, it's millions, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. It's like, man, I'm sick of counting thousands. I want to count millions. I want to do this too. So we all do, right? So I collected properties. I've been collecting properties since, 2013, 2014. Rental properties, Airbnbs, vacation homes, industrial buildings, storefronts, warehouses, you name it. I like that space a lot. You have other businesses, Dynasty, Directory. When opportunities come, I like to weigh them out and see, invest into things like that. The diversification is a big thing, right? I mean, there's a lot that I do. I don't know which way you want to go, right? cryptocurrency, stock market, 401k. I try to maximize my portfolio, and instead of having a 5-car garage full of things, I choose to, yeah,
Full of
right. I
Lambos?
choose to have a nice, healthy portfolio. So when it's time for me to be free, I'm free. I guess it's a humble way to put it. I don't know which direction you wanted to go,
Yeah.
so.
It's all good, dude. We'll go in whatever direction you take it. You lead, I
Right,
follow.
it's all
whatever.
good. It's all good.
It's all good.
See, people have
It's
to
all
understand
good. It's gonna be fun.
when we do these podcasts, right, or we get interviewed, and whether someone flies here, I fly somewhere, or it's over Zoom. Like, I've never talked to Mike. I've never about what we're going to talk about, right? And depending on the mood I'm in and the mood you're in, and what's happening around us, you're going to get a different answer every day. So, I guess my point is, it's like when I'm answering questions, or you're answering questions, or we're discussing things, the viewers have to understand that, like, it's just like coming from here, right? As fast as you're asking it, I'm telling it. As fast as I'm asking it, you're telling it. I think it's just interesting when you start having a conversation, and then to see where the conversation, ends up naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love that shit. I was told I should send just like 10 questions or something like that before. I'm like, it takes the thrill out of it for me. I'm like, what fun is it? Like it's. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it for anyone that does it. Like, it's good. It makes people feel more comfortable. But like, that uncomfortability, I fucking love that. Right? It's like I don't know what we're gonna talk about, and you know what? We're gonna be like B Rabbit, a Detroit legend, and just come off the top with it.
For sure. I just think it's cool.
Oh shit! I have an investment property, and right before COVID is when I bought it and started renovating it, and had to evict somebody. It's a 4-unit, and then a fire started in the unit downstairs from that. So it's like a front house and carriage house type deal. And then COVID happened, and they shut down like everything right in New York, so we couldn't get anything done. The GC that I hired apparently wasn't the greatest, kept stringing me along. I mean, it took 3 years to get this damn thing back to, so I had a little bit of trauma on my first go around in investment properties, but it's not going to deter me.
It's not all peaches and cream, man, and people think, I'm going to get a rental property and we're going to make all this money and somebody else can deal with it. I'll hire a property management company. It's just, dude, it's not like that. It is another business, right? It's another business, and it's another thing that you have to keep your eye on. And I've learned.
If we think back to 20,
I've learned lessons. It's not easy.
Yeah, and a lot of the best lessons are the ones that are hardest to deal with in the 100%. Moment. I can tell you that from experience. So 2013, 2014, you start, getting into real estate. For anyone that's listening, like, how did you transition into acquiring your first property? Did you go there and it was a foreclosure? Was it like a BRRRR project? Like, what
Yeah, this is cool. When I did a breakout at the Roofing Process Conference, I covered this, and I actually had a picture of the first house that I bought. But it was in East Point, Michigan. I went there to give the lady a roof estimate, and she's like, my mom just died, and she was a hoarder, and the house is full of stuff, and I go in, and the ceiling's like caving in from a roof leak. And she's like, I live an hour and a half away, and I just want to get this sold. And I was like, listen, how much do you want for this house? I'll buy it as is right now, cash money. Sorry, I keep banging on the table. It's moving the screen. Cash money. And she was like, $14,000. I was like, how about $12,000? And she's like, done. Okay. So that was it. It was November. I paid her $12,000. I took the house as is. So since, we're all roofers, all winter, we got to take the crew over there and clean it all out and get it all ready. And then it rented for $1,200 a month since then. So the ROI is just insane. And now it's worth, $140,000, $150,000. So it's just kind of a poker chip sitting there that, you can cash in when you want. And that's kind of how I think of those properties is like all of them are paid off. So the Michigan ones. So you just have all these little poker chips sitting here, and you can just change them in whenever you want. It's liquidable income, right? Or you use them as leverage, and you take loans out of them to get more, which is, I'm not big into that yet. I don't know. Some people say you should. Some people say, but.
I mean, I think it's different for everybody, right? Like, if you have the means not to and to still pursue the other opportunities you want, like, then why would you? But, you know, if you're somebody who's doing your first house and it's like, yeah, we paid this one off in 2 years, I want to buy another one, and I'm not liquid right now, you know, maybe you think about doing like a cash out refi or something.
It's exactly how the game's played. You know, we've done that before, but it just depends on the situation, right?
It's fun.
I mean, currently,
it's so interesting.
Currently, I'm selling all of my Michigan properties. So I only have 3 left, and then I'm just buying Airbnbs, Florida, Nashville, you know, places that are an all-year rental. So that's kind of my strategy now. Is the tenants are tough, right? For me, and I'm not a good landlord because I have so much other stuff going on. And when I give it to a property management company, I've been through 3, and they all suck. So plus, I mean, they're worth 10x what I bought them, so I can just, you know, move it somewhere else, and then, you know, upgrade, I guess.
My first opportunity, like legit opportunity, where I actually had the money to do it was my buddy's a real estate agent at the time. He calls me up. He's like, "Hey, we got this house. It's got a bunch of mold and shit." I'm like, ugh. And it's like 40 minutes from the house, and I'm working my sales position at the time, probably 55 hours a week. And we go and look at it, and we can get it for $25,000. I mean, this place was a shithole. Okay. However, it was in a nice area. Like, you look at the houses around, right? So like, after I fix this shit up, like, this is how I look at it. It's like, how much is it going to cost me to fix it? What are the comps in the area going to be worth right now? So then you have an understanding, okay, if I buy it for 25, I put 60 in it, everything else is worth 150. Okay, it's $65,000 in opportunity. And I'm just like, dude, I can't spearhead like getting a GC and holding them accountable through this day. Like, it's not something where it's like, hey, let's, you know, remodel the kitchen. I mean, this whole shit needed to be, you know, pretty much rebuilt. Don't you know, he ended up putting it on the market for him. They sold it as is for like $70K. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely disgusted.
It happens though, man, you know? No, that's...
But opportunity, cost, and benefit. I didn't see that one coming. He made sure to tell me about it too.
No doubt.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Fucking guy. Yeah, tenants are tough to deal with, especially when it's not your primary thing that you're doing, right? Even more so, like, if you're somebody like me who's not handy. Like, I'm going to pay somebody tomorrow to come put the mount on my wall and put my TV on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost the same, you know? It's not worth the time. It's not worth the time.
Right. So, you know, you look at it and, man. Now, you also mentioned that you have commercial property, right? Commercial storefront property. How is that like compared to like residential?
I think it's the best, right? Like, I love it. So here's the difference, right? It's a storefront. It's somebody's business, right? It's somebody's dream. Somebody that has their shit together has a dream, right? Where they're going to move in and they're going to renovate it themselves to cater to what they're doing. So they're going to redo the floors. They're going to paint the walls. They're going to paint the ceiling. They're going to put up signage. They're going to do all this stuff to your unit that's going to cost you nothing and make the unit look better. Also, you're dealing with another person that, you know, you can help along the way, and they can help you depending on, you know, what the business is. The guy next door here, he does coffee. He's a coffee brewer, right? So though we don't have many things in common, I mean, we can still steer each other. We can steer each other business. But as far as like overall, I think we meet great people. They renovate the property. They're not trashing the place. They're not, you know, layover tenants. They're not. I'm not having to evict them or give them notices. So I like it. It's worked out really well for me. But maybe I'm lucky. You know, I don't know.
It feels a little bit easier than putting notices on doors and trying to worry about.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, I just had a situation where the tenants. I'm trying to flip these houses over, and the tenant's lease was up in the end of April, and I went down there like 3 weeks later after their lease ended, and they're still there. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, I'm staying here till you take me to court. I don't care what you do. But so then I call my attorney. He's like, yeah, it's going to take 30 days. They have 30 days notice, and then you have to wait for the judge to say it's time to get out, and then they get another 30 days. So I'm like, dude, so it's 90 days till I can have my own house back. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Plus, he's like, you can sue them, but you'll probably never collect any money from them, right? So you're out $5,000 because you didn't get paid rent. You're paying taxes. You're paying the bills, and it's I don't know. It's insane. It's just so insane. It's insane.
It's insane.
There's a lot more to the story, but I mean, it's insane. It's insane, right? Like, they have more rights than the guy that like busted his ass, came up from nothing, that's paying the taxes and, you know, paying for food on everybody, you know, a bunch of his employees' table. Like, and they have, you know, it's like, oh, they just stay there for free. No worries about you. If you don't eat this week, no problem. But they will. I don't know. It just pisses me off.
I can relate. I'm in New York, and I think that ours might be right around the same as far as being tenant
for sure. I get
you know,
it. I was a tenant too, but I
it's
mean,
challenging.
just blatantly taking advantage of the system to take advantage of the system is, you know, I don't know.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to write some letters to the congressman. All right, we're going to start some grassroots lobbying, go knock doors, get a petition signed, and then we'll change
There
it
you go.
one signature
Perfect.
at a time. I wish I had time for that. If it was important enough, I guess I would make time, right? That's just me making an excuse. Damn it.
Plus, you just know that it's
Okay.
not going to go anywhere, so you might as well just focus on building your businesses and brands.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that, and maybe hire
That's right.
somebody to go do the petition. It'll be
Sounds
great.
like a good
It'll be
admin.
fantastic. What are some key takeaways that you could give to, you know, somebody who's considering starting a business,
Like
or
real
some of
estate?
the younger entrepreneurs that have just started a business, whether it's real estate, whether it's roofing, if there's principles or anything that have crossovered into both? Dealer's choice.
I mean, my biggest thing again goes back to like accounting, books, and keep paying people. I've always been so big into that, and I mean, my suppliers, for instance, it's like they know they're going to get a check, so my credit limit is probably infinite. If I need a tube of caulk, you know, an hour away, they're going to drive it there. And it just helps you. And the same with real estate. You pay your banks on time. You develop relationships with these bank managers, mortgage officers, insurance agents, and it's like, dude, the guy pays his bills. He's a legit guy. That's kind of my advice: is just be honest, be straight up, and just pay your shit, man. Just pay your. You see it so often, you know, like people are chasing around people for money, and it's only decreasing your own value in one way or another, right? You're decreasing your own legitimacy as well as you're losing leverage, right? Like everything that we do is to build leverage, like whether it's in our business, whether it's in, you know, real estate. It's like we're trying to build all this leverage so that we can use it and utilize it. When you pay late and you don't pay people and you have a bad name on the street and you have a bad name in the, you know, insurance office or whatever, right? Whatever you're doing, you lose all that leverage. You're losing momentum. So that's always the biggest thing. And, you know, keeping track of your accounting and paying your taxes. I mean, I get it. Some jobs, some people want to pay cash. I get it. Sometimes, allegedly, you want to accept cash for a job and wipe it or whatever you want to do. But for me, it's like, dude, I'd rather have a business that paid all these taxes, right? That if I need a loan or line of credit or whatever I needed, it's like I have something legitimate that, yes, I'm a tax-paying citizen, and please, I need $1 million or $5 million or whatever it is. I want that, you know. I want to be able to be trustworthy to do that. So those are the two biggest things that I always try to, you know, especially for first timers, like when you're setting the standard for yourself, set the standard for yourself where it's like, I'm never going to be late on any of these bills, and I'm going to take advantage of every discount and every rebate and everything that I can to leverage where I'm going to the next time, right? We're looking out. We're not thinking about today and tomorrow. Like, where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years? And let that be your guide. Let that guide you and navigate you through the journey of wherever, you know, it is you're trying to go.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. You know,
Right.
so much to say. I think I think that like relationships are one of the most like underutilized, overlooked, and biggest opportunities for especially young business owners, right? Developing those relationships, and creating situations where like everybody wins, and it's not hard to do per se, but like it requires effort and it requires focus, to be intentional about those things. And I just made a video about it the other day, man. It's like, it doesn't cost you anything other than your time, and especially when you're a young business owner. They talk about like going out, shaking hands and kissing babies, things like that. But it's like you can build some really good relationships, and who knows where that goes, right? Just put your best foot forward and pay the damn bills.
I think you're onto something though, because like I think that old school flavor of way of doing business, where it's shaking hands and taking people to lunch and getting together, like physically getting together, instead of Zoom or phone calls or texting or sending emails, right? Like, hey, let's meet for lunch, to help build and nurture relationships in your business and in your personal life. Recently, we joined a super exclusive golf country club. That's what I was trying to come out with, right? Or that's what I was trying to say. And it's super expensive, but just imagine the Rolodex in this place, like to go there and to golf with these, and I'm not good enough, but to go there and golf with these people. I sent Tyler, but the relationships inside there and all those people. And when he was going through his orientation for the country club, they were like, wow, we've never had a roofer here since this ever existed. Like, you're the first roofer to ever have a membership here. It's like, oh, cool. It's kind of...
And I mean, it makes sense, right? Because the demographic that's going to be there, the amount of worth of those folks, and birds of a feather, they've got friends, and it's like now you're tapping into a part of the market where, like, whether it's 10% or 70% of those people, if they need something from you, right? The same way if you meet them and they're good at what they do and you need something from them, you're going to call them. Like, they're not always going to go to Google. They're not always going to call from a Facebook ad. Like, especially if you think about golfers, it's probably an older demographic there, right? I hate to stereotype, but I think that's typically what it is at country clubs. And the reason I say that is, like, if there's a I don't know this for a fact, but if I had to guess, if there's a part of the if you look at the entire outlay of population, if there's a part of that population that's going to crave that in-person referral, reciprocal relationship type deal, it's probably going to be those guys, right? They're probably more apt than to hop on their phone to call one of their boys from the country club and, like, or kicking it over 18 holes and, like,
100%,
roofer.
Right? Yeah, and it's like, also there's people that, most older people golf. So even if they're not part of the country club, we can invite them, right? We can invite them to dinner there, and then they can golf there. They've never golfed at a private executive club. So we can bring people there too. And it's like, wow, this is really cool. Thank you so much. Like, it was just, however much it costs for a hole.
Yeah, that's sick. $75,000 a year.
Well, I'm saying, like, to even golf there, right? Like, because the private country clubs, you can't just go in and golf. It's not a public course, right? So you can't just go in there and golf. So for me, one of my buddies, Chris, just took me to a private course for the first time, and I have no business being there, right? But I was just like, man, this place is so nice. Like, the greens were, it was so nice. Like, there's people that you didn't have to, like, when you rake the sand in a bunker, you didn't have to rake this. Like, somebody's behind you raking the sand for you. It's like, dang, it is nuts, man.
I'll keep an eye open for my
I told you I'm coming to Buffalo. I'm taking Charlie golf. So.
Well, we don't have access to a private club here, so maybe we take a road trip to Detroit. Romeo.
But yeah, I think anyways, the moral of what I was saying is to kind of piggyback on what you said, is like that relationship nurturing and that old school thing of like, hey, let's go golfing. Or I reach out to property management owners, and I just, last week or the week before, I just took one to lunch. And the guy was like, all I did was take him to lunch, and just say, hey, I just want to learn a little bit more about you and what do you do? What are your interests? How can I help you more? What are you struggling with to find? Is it like, can I like switch out some lights on some buildings for you? Can I, what can I do to help you? And in the end, he was just like, hey, I just want to say thank you so much. Nobody's ever, done this. And nobody's ever like took me out to lunch and asked how they could help me. And I'm like, man, this guy's got to be in his mid 50s, right? Nobody's even ever took him to lunch. I mean, doesn't that sound crazy? And it's like this guy owns, or he's the he's not the owner, but he's the, whatever. He's in charge of giving out contracts for multiple multifamily, condos and apartments and commercial spaces across the entire state. And it's like nobody's trying to like go talk to this guy. Seems crazy, right?
It does. And I mean, baked into what we just talked about, I think is, a very important point, not just for young entrepreneurs and contractors, but patience and delayed gratification, right? So you're investing into a country club, or you're investing your time in a meeting with people, and like everybody wants immediacy, right? They want whatever the return is that they're expecting, they want it right fucking now. And it's not like, that's not the long game. And you can play some short game, but you should complement that with some long game stuff. Like if you're doing PPC and Google ads, do some SEO, right? And you'll be happy when your site starts ranking and you're getting traffic from it. It's no different when you're building relationships. Yes, you might not land a 200 square roof tomorrow because of that relationship. But if you are consistently intentional about building relationships and being good to people, you'll have a network of people that will consistently send you opportunities. Maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2. I don't know. But it'll happen. I can promise you that.
No, I think it's huge. And I mean, even if we don't ever sell anything, I mean, the pedigree of people we get to listen to, the stories we get to hear from the other entrepreneurs, the motivation, the advice maybe in life or marriage or business. I mean, no matter what, what's better than being surrounded by all this caliber of people, right? I don't know. To me, I think that's the best part, is just sitting there sharing stories, having a bourbon with the guys or whatever they're, and just kicking it.
Yeah, because you likely have common ground, right? And if you have common ground with somebody, having a conversation and actually being interested in it is a lot easier, right? And even if the only common ground is your desire to win, or your ambitions in life, just to be better, and whatever that means to you. It could be money, it could be more free time, it could be buying more houses. It doesn't fucking matter, right? You can have these commonalities with people, and you'll never really run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, just like one more person that's been there and done, like, the old wise owl, like to have a couple old wise owls to like, hey, I'm going through this, man. I mean, they got to say, oh, I remember, this is kind of how I got through it. Like that advice is priceless, and that relationship is, I don't know. I'm just grateful to be able to be a part of it.
I love asking questions. Fuck yeah, dude. I said I love asking questions, especially to like older folks. Like some of the stories that you hear when you just start asking questions and listen.
That was my favorite part about being a sales rep, is when I sold all my jobs, I get to go to all the nice houses and be like, so what do you, let me ask you, what do you do? And they, I've heard crazy stuff, that people made it. The stories are just incredible. Then you leave all fired up. So it's just, you never know who you're going to meet, man. I met one of Robert Herjavec's partners in one of his businesses, and I ended up taking the guy to lunch. And this is back in the day. I had nothing. I don't even know why he went to lunch with me. But he did. That's how those guys are, And he was just telling me stories about this. They did this, and then all of his partners bought Ferraris, and he's like, I invested it into this little tech company, and it's just so cool. It's so inspiring. To me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So, what made you start creating YouTube content? And what made you stop?
Man, everybody asks me that question. Well, what made me start is I just miss it. I want to do it. I have so much ambition, and sometimes I'll watch, well, I guess not sometimes, but one time I went through a little spree of watching all the old videos, and I'm just like, man, I'm so much smarter. I know so much more now. Like there's like the levels have been increased 10x. So I want to help with that content, and I just want to clear the air for people that are out there actually looking for somebody that's actually doing it, like in the weeds doing it, and part of it every day. Because I feel like though there are great voices in our industry, I mean, the amount of people that are actually in it and doing it is very slim, right? A lot of people are doing it from a desk or from, not here. right? Well, you're a marketing guy. You're doing exactly in the industry you're doing it, right? That's completely different. Um, but that's one of the reasons. Like, I just want to come. I want to bring it. I want to teach and go through it with, go through all all the different projects and all the different perceptions of how this can be accomplished. But why I stopped, I don't know. It just became a job to me. It became annoying holding my phone, going home, editing the video, posting it, waiting for it to post. Then you have to wait for YouTube to process it. Then you got to upload a thumbnail. And I was just, I don't know. And then at some point it felt like I was just making content to make content. And if it's not sweet, I just don't want to post it. Like if it's not fire, then I just don't want it, right? So that's kind of where we're at, I guess.
So are we going to see a content renaissance here soon?
Yeah. So before I release the Anthony's next to me. He's like my video media guy. When we first started about getting back into YouTube, I'm like, listen, man, until we have like 20 videos ready to roll, we're not posting one, right? So at this point, how many do you think we have? Like 20, 30?
15 long, 15 short.
15 long, 15 short as today sits. And there's a bunch of unedited content that we haven't even started to edit yet. So I'm not going to drop it every week. I'm not going to like water it down. It will come out when it comes out. We'll drop one next week and then maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks after, or, whatever I think is the best is what I'll give. And then we'll just chop up the rest and use it for social content and things like that.
I like it. You made a really interesting point in the beginning of that statement in response to my question. And you said, you look back and I was like, you're like the level, right? I'm like 10x smarter. And it's so funny to me. I sit here today and I feel really confident in the things that I do, right? And who I am and in different facets of life. And then I know that there's so much shit that I don't know and I'll never find out because there's just not enough hours in the day. But when I look back 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I had the same level of confidence on certain things. And it's like, I didn't know a fucking thing. And then 10 years from now, I'll look back at this shoot and like the YouTube short that's going to be chopped out of this. And I'll be like, man, I was a fucking idiot. I didn't know anything. Why was I so confident? It's the evolution, bearing witness to it. And then to be able to look back retrospectively it's a fascinating
cool,
thing.
And it's like to always be open to learn and always be open to take that next, and it doesn't matter where the other person is that you're talking to, like take their ideas and listen to what they have to say, right? And to always be open to growth and reading and consuming content that is, what do I want to say, like motivating or useful in some sense, right?
I was at the gym this morning and I listened to Denzel Washington's commencement speech at Penn State, and then I put on, there's this like 43-minute Joe Rogan like montage of motivation stuff that I absolutely love.
That's how they got the David Goggins book. I started listening to the book while I was in the gym. And
I'll have to pop that in. He's a sick fuck.
It's cool.
I really like
I respect him no matter what. He's obviously an absolute savage, right? But when you think of him, you think of like of this yelling guy that's running and cussing and telling you to get off your fucking ass and do it. But this book is a little bit different. It's like it's really deep, and it kind of goes into like, things in my life that I don't know. I like it. I enjoy it. I think this and have you read Extreme Ownership?
Extreme Ownership.
Jocko Willink.
I did not. I listened to like the first 4 chapters.
Yeah, for some reason, I've listened to that book 3 or 4 times. I love Extreme Ownership, and just every time I listen to it, I take something else out of it, right? Like I'm a bad reader. I'm a very bad reader because I have ADHD. So while I'm even talking to you, sometimes I like stump myself because I'm thinking of something else. So when I read a paragraph, by the time I'm done with the paragraph, I already forgot what I was reading. So if I really like something, I have to read it multiple times to get just a little bit of it to sink in. So that's why I like, these books. And then every time you listen to it, it's like, man, I didn't hear that the first time. Like, that's really good. I got to put that in my notes.
It's crazy how, when we consume information, and it doesn't matter, whether it's extreme ownership or it's a YouTube video or even like a song or a story, like the perspective that you can pull out of it and how much that can influence, like the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of the month, the rest of your life, right? I find that also to be very fascinating. I'm going to have to listen to that Goggins book. I don't read anymore. I'll listen to books when I'm in transit at the gym and things like that, but I never liked reading. Never liked it. In fact, but I do. If I have to read, it can't be for long periods off of a computer. It has to be like a physical copy, which is crazy to me. But I synthesize and retain what information I do much better with physical paper than reading off of the screen. They actually in college, I had to submit as a disabled student in order to get out of buying the electronic version and getting a physical copy. I was like, that is crazy. I was like, I just want a book. So what happens is, like, you talk about relationships, right? So the publishing company, typically you go buy textbooks, right? And you buy them for $200, and you go to sell them, you get like $7. Okay. So what they did was, because people weren't getting the textbooks, there's always like a reserve of it at the campus library. What they did is the university and the publisher made an agreement to where they're going to do it electronically, and you have to purchase the license as part of the course, right? So they're forcing you to buy it. Okay, we're capitalists, I get it. Now, they had a version available at the library, but you could only print, I think it was like up to 3 pages out of each chapter, so you couldn't print the whole chapter, right? So there was literally no way to accommodate my learning style to actually get the information that I needed. And that's why they're like, well, you got to go to the Students with Disability office and you need to sign. I'm like, this seems preposterous.
I think that's a big problem, though. I mean, my oldest daughter's in college, and some of we pay a lot for her college tuition. She goes to a good school. But some of the classes, you don't even have the option to take in school. You have to take it online. And she's like, Dad, I don't learn on Zoom and test on Zoom or, online the same, like I need to be in a class. I was like, I get it. Like whether I took my builder's license or whatever I'm doing, I have to be in, like I'll pay extra to be there because one, I can't be sidetracked and my mind can't race. I'm there, but I just can't learn sitting in front of a computer for hours on end, right? Or reading off the computer. I'm like you, I need that physical copy. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always didn't really like reading, but it was the lesser of evils, right? If I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have to read, like, if I can pull more out of it this way, let me do this. It's like, you want to, like, come on. I'm the same way, though. I couldn't do online classes. I tried that shit.
That's tough.
No bueno. For me, like, I need to get on campus, and I'll sit my ass right in the front row. Because I just know if I sit in the back, I'll be all over fantasy football or just
That's another thing I love
shit.
out of roofing is fantasy football. But,
yeah, so, dude, it's what a pleasure to have you.
I'm just glad we get to chop it up, man.
Do you have any questions for me?
I said I'm just glad we get to chop it up. It's funny, like the first time me and you met, we met at the Roofing Process Conference, and I seen you over talking on the phone. And I said, after we've already had a few conversations, right? So we knew who each other were. But it's like, hey, let's go to lunch, and then it's just like, dude, we hung out the whole time. It's like, sometimes you meet somebody and it's just like, hey, we click. It's cool. So I'm glad we get to more than just a quick phone call and catch up. But I didn't prepare any questions, man. I don't have any. I was just like, well, let's see what happens and bring the energy and see if we can, hopefully help one person, change or take one gold nugget out of it. Then it's all worth it for sure.
Yeah, and we'll do. Don't worry, we'll do a part 2. I know you guys want it. Sure. All right, so we'll make sure we get a part 2 going, and we'll do it. We'll do it on a specific topic. Drop it in the comments what you want to know from Eric Reno, and the next podcast we'll have some time and we'll segment it specifically towards that because we appreciate you guys. If you guys don't watch this, then we're not going to do it. So you're all the real MVPs.
Yeah. Cool.
If you had to leave with a closing line, what would the closing line be?
Oh, man. Yeah, you must
Stump
have,
you
man.
twice today. Let's get it.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, what's he gonna ask me next? What's he gonna ask me
all
next?
jokes
And it's like,
aside,
hey,
dude.
what's your closing line? I'm like, oh shit, I don't know, I don't have a closing line. But no, I would
Hey, if you let me
go
ask.
ahead.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
mean, to me, it's focus,
If
right?
you
Like,
had
the power of Zoom, right? To me, it's focus. You know, what's happening around you and adapting to what's happening around you. You know, I coach a select handful of people. And when I coach them, it's just me and them. It's not automated recordings, no videos, no bullshit, right? Like I'm there, I'm with you, I'm in your business. And it's always like, well, the market's saturated here and we're not closing enough sales. Okay, why? Because this, X, Y, Z. Why? What's the root cause, right? Is it the sales process? Is it the marketing? Is it you're going after the wrong demographic? Is it the market really is saturated? Are your margins set to where they need to be set? Can you go higher? Can you go lower? Can you command more cost? Can you command more market space? And that's always where I find that, I don't want to say void, but that area for improvement, right? Is like, it's so easy to be like, wow, there's so many roofers around here. I mean, you know, doing any more than $1 million is absolutely insane. Well, what's the guy across the street doing? Oh, he does like 10. Well, then obviously it's not insane, right? Like, what is he doing? What is the strategy behind what's happening in the market? Or what is the strategy behind what he's doing versus what's happening in the rest of the market, right? There's always room for improvement. People get rich off, the Jelly Belly guy. I watched the story of him. He's rich off jelly beans. Like, if I would have said, hey, Mike, I'm going to make jelly beans that taste like popcorn and dirty socks and rotten eggs and that whole bamboozle thing that my kids, make me play, I would have been like, that's the dumbest, business idea I've ever heard. And how much does it gross? I mean, billions of dollars, right, off jelly beans. So
Wild.
when I was younger and started this business, there was a guy I did work for. He's really, really super successful, not just with money, but just successful in life. And he told me, he's like, son, he said, whether you're going to be a bush, a tree, or a blade of grass, you just set out to be the best damn one you can be, and you'll always be successful. And I'll never forget that. I think it was in a video, or maybe I posted it one day. I'll never forget that, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Somebody's getting rich off it, right? Jelly beans, popcorn, you name it, right? It's true. Don't doubt yourself. Focus and figure it out, and just keep going.
All right, you sucked me back in, so
Let's
I want to
go.
talk for a minute about yeah. So I had a conversation this morning with a client, and we were talking about sales, and I find typically that it's going to be one of three things or some sort of combination, if not all of these three things, right, as to why sales are an issue at a company. And those three things are expectations, systems and processes, and the management of the sales team, right? And all those three things have to happen. And the problem is like with expectations, this client was like, I can't get these guys to do fucking. They get excited when they sell 3 roofs, and they, this happens. It's like, what, you shouldn't be excited yet. We're not killing it. Like, that's not killing it. Like, that's below average. So with the expectation thing, I think a misstep that I see quite frequently is you don't set that expectation up front. So think of it this way. This is kind of how I look at it. Like, if you're a teenager and you have a curfew of 10 o'clock,
Right.
that's an expectation. You're expected to get your ass home. And if you were home at 10:01 at my house, my dad was kind of a dick. He'd roast you and punish you, right? But there's an expectation, right? There's an expectation from the parent side that you're going to let your kid go hang out at their friend's house, do what they're going to do, whatever, until 10 o'clock. And there's an expectation on your end that you're allowed to be out till 10 o'clock. So, if you're in summer vacation, you're in your first few weeks, and you got a 10 o'clock curfew, hey, guess what, Mike? You're going to be home at 8 from now on. What's going to happen? I'm going to resent the shit out of this dude, right? You can't pivot the expectation of a salesperson that's not set and explicitly set up front weeks, months, years into their tenure with a company and expect them to be okay with it. I mean, it just, in my opinion, that doesn't work, right? There's going to be negative emotion that's evoked from the salesperson, and it's likely going to result in a relationship that's less than desirable. And whether that's like a cancerous energy, right, in the office, whether that's lack of production, right,
or selling
lack
and
of
doing,
care, just
the
apathy
jobs on the
towards
side,
the company.
using your subs, or, I've heard stories of all kinds of stuff, through sales. Yeah.
All that shit.
Yeah.
All that shit. And then, so if they have that expectation, if they have a sales process that is proven to work, all the time do I see the management go to pieces, right? Because you have a responsibility as running a company, as an owner, and whether it's you or a sales manager, you have a responsibility to the people that are responsible to convince the people in your market that need roofs that you're the best person for the job. Think about who salespeople are. A lot of salespeople naturally want as much possible for as little effort, as much output for as little input, right? Okay, fantastic. So let's manage them, right? Let's keep them on track, and let's make sure that they consistently are motivated and inspired to go out and do the right thing for our customers, for our company, and for themselves and their families. But it doesn't just fucking happen, and you can't dilute the fact of how high of a priority that needs to be. And figure out the structure, whether that's you have weekly meetings once a week on Tuesdays, right? I hate Monday meetings. I'm not a fan of
all of our
Monday
meetings on Monday, Mike.
sales
We do all of
environment.
them on Monday.
Listen, it works for people. It didn't work for me as a salesperson. I dreaded. I also wasn't a fan of the company because we were lacking in some things. But have an agenda, right? Like, what are the things that are important in the company to go over in a sales meeting? Are you doing role play? Like, what are these? Get their feedback as far as what obstacles they're facing to be a better salesperson. Chop it up a bit. Like, it doesn't all have to be like, I don't know. I think it's a different blend for everybody, but I think the consistency of having that, like, people need structure, especially sales.
Yeah, I mean, sales, is one of those things, and again, it's not a stereo. I mean, I guess it kind of is a stereotype. It's like a basketball team, right? You have your superstars that are very, like egos you have to balance and things like that, and it's it definitely can be a challenge, right? And I think I see the industry kind of changing that, and I mean we're changing our direction too, to where like it's not like we have inside outside sales, where the outside sales reps aren't as like how do I put it? They're not as it's a different role, right? It's a different role. It's not just a commission based, like, you're not a rogue agent anymore. Like, you're part of the team, right? Because I think what happens with a lot of companies is they build these sales organizations using these old school sales methods, and they're all kind of rogue agents, right? They're out there for themselves because they're trying to collect their commission, they're trying to hit their quotas. Like, sure, they're still upholding their things, but they're kind of like rogue agents, right? They're all out there. So when you build a team environment where one guy wins and everybody wins, right? And then if one guy sinks, everybody sinks, then it's more of one of those things where I don't have to hold you accountable no more because your team will hold you accountable, right? So that's really the approach that we've taken is how do we create a team environment with a great culture where we don't have to police it, where it's policed for us, right? If somebody's not carrying their weight, then other people are like, hey man, this guy's got to go, or they have a one-on-one with them, like, hey, you got to step up because none of us are hitting our numbers because you're not hitting your numbers, right? And I think that's kind of where the industry is going before it all goes Amazon style online and that route. So it's a whole different kind of
That's interesting. So I will say I've been happy to see an increased awareness, even in the groups that we're in together, like focused on culture, things like core values and actually trying to believe in things, stand for things, and an emphasis being placed on that, because it's incredibly important when hiring, when operating, when retaining. Like, if you want to retain people, like you said, rogue agent they don't feel attached to the company other than what percentage they get once they sell this next roof. And just honestly, like, there's always somebody that could throw them an extra 0.5%, 2%, whatever. Like, if that's the only thing that's tying them to the company, it's hard to feel bought in. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and even for me, like, when I go like screen people that whether I'm going to coach them or not, I had one person say, "Hey, I own a painting company, but I want to do roofing because it's more lucrative." And I'm like, "Well, I'm definitely not the guy for you, right? Like, I mean, though you may crush it, like that, it doesn't align with my principles, right? Like, I'm not out here a money hungry savage trying to maximum every dollar. It's like, how do I make sure that every person and everybody in the company has a great experience all the way through?" But I think it just comes with different mindsets, different come-ups, different, priorities and different objectives. But if you are truly a good leader and you have a really good reputation in your industry and in your area, I mean, you don't have to look for employees. They'll just come knocking on your door, right? They want to work for somebody because, in Buffalo or in Romeo or Detroit, Michigan area, like, everybody knows who the good contractors are and who the shitheads are. All the crews and the subs and everybody, they all know each other. They all talk, right? Like, if this guy doesn't pay, they're getting blasted online, right? And everybody knows this guy doesn't pay. So he's stuck with the shitbags, right? And then if you're good and you have a good name out there, it's an auto recruiter, right? And this goes back to like paying the bills and taking care of people. It's all for full circle, right? Like, I don't have to go look for people. It's like, look, walk through my door every single day, submit resumes, call here and ask for hiring. Most of the people here were never responded to a job post, right? It's just like they walked in, or it was a relationship that we had, or things like that. So
It's amazing. Well, I mean, you've obviously done a really good job, because that is not typical in my experience. And it's not easy, right? Like, you have to be very intentional about that stuff. And
sure. It's part of, like,
well,
the role of a leader is to create other leaders. It's not to keep secrets from them. It's not to drag them down or hold them underwater just so they keep swimming, right? It's like, hey, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? And, one of my really good friends, we stood up at each other's wedding. I mean, he worked here forever, right? And then last winter, he's like, "Hey, man, I'm finally ready to go on my own. I want to go do kitchens and bathrooms and all this cool shit," right? And it's like, sweet, man, I'm so happy for you. How can I help, right? And we're still friends, and we still refer each other business back and forth. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's like, if they're going to leave here, I hope that they're leaving here to get there, right? Or to do what they want to do. Right? Like, why is it me to be like, "No, man, how about, what if I double your salary? What if I pay you more? What if I do this, that," right? It's like, money's only going to help for so long to where it just wears off, and it's like, they're going to do what they want to do, right? I don't know.
It's going to be incredibly fulfilling for both of you. So, like, he now gets an opportunity to pursue something that he wants, right, and aspires to be, and, like, you get to be fulfilled in the sense of, like, that you've helped one of your boys in the transition.
How cool
and
is
get
it,
to the
man?
way
That's
right?
the same with Dynasty. Like, when I go in there and see, like, what my brother's doing, it's like, dude, this is, like, fucking so cool, man. Like, I love this, Like, I'm so invested into this, It's just, I wouldn't sell my percentage for nothing, because I just wouldn't, I want to see I want to take it to the end. I want to see where it goes. And I want to be part of the ride.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to take a trip to Detroit here.
Let's
Charlie,
do it, man.
And I want some tours, and I don't know if my hand's ready for golf. I fucked my hand up like 4 months ago, and I'm very nervous. Yeah. Very nervous about, like, striking, like, especially if I chunk it.
Yeah, and that vibration runs up your arm.
If I reset the clock, well, dude, for the 2 months I couldn't, like, I like to hit the heavy bag and I like to play basketball. Those are the things I do consistently, and for 2 months I couldn't do that, and it was awful. It was just awful. And if I restart the clock because I don't know how to golf and I fucking hit behind the ball a little too much. I mean, if I go out golfing, I'll shoot an 88 or a 107 or something in between. Like, I can't tell you, right? Sometimes I'm smashing everything, but when I am, I three putt.
Sure.
I'm on in 2 3 putt. Oh, nice bogey.
I mean,
Mike.
I'm honestly like, I hit a 94 last weekend. I hit a 95 before. I'm a year in, and I mean, at the beginning, I'm just like whiffing balls and shit. I'm just like, man, how do you play? How is it so hard to hit this ball down this, hit it straight down the fairway? And it's impossible, man. And I'm like, dude, maybe I'm just not built to, like, maybe it's my body, maybe it's my mental. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not built to golf. So then I went and met a golf instructor, right? And I had a couple lessons. So now I get like weekly lessons from this guy, and it's like, wow, Actually a really good time when you play decent golf. Decent golf to me is like, like hitting par.
Yeah.
Like if I hit a par or birdies, I'm like, man, this is the shit. This is so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. When your second shot is, you actually your third because you went in the woods on every drive that you hit, it's a little more frustrating, a little less enjoyable.
Especially when you're playing with, everybody I play with are seasoned players mostly, and so they're kind of like, I'm slowing them down. They got to go find my balls. I'm dropping everywhere, and it's kind of like, damn, man, I don't want to be that guy that just sucks all the time. Everybody's waiting on me, but.
What I'll do is I'm gonna give people a golden nugget here before we wrap up. And if you have a friend who's looking to get into golf, let them learn on their own. Don't be the first one to bring them out to a golf course, because it will be awful. I've done it a couple times, and it's like, dude, you just feel so much pressure, right? You got two groups behind you, and they're hitting into you, and it's like this guy, my boy Dante. I mean, he's swinging, he's missing the ball. Same shit I did when I first saw a golf club, right? It's like. And Dante's an athlete. Dante, Golden Glove boxer, but you pick up the golf club and try to swing this damn thing and hit this little ball. It looks really easy. It's not easy.
It's not, man. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. My buddy Seth, he's my insurance guy, one of my really good friends. We started golfing at the same time. So about a year ago is when we bought our clubs, right? So not too long ago, a couple weekends ago, it was foggy in the morning, so we had an 8 a.m. tee time. So we get up to the box, and the ranger's like, hey, we're stopping everybody for a little while. So in this time, like 10 teams had accrued behind our cart, right? He's like, all right, you guys can go. So we get up to the tee box, and I'm still new. And everybody's watching. The ranger's right there. I'm like, oh, shit. And I crank it, and I mean, dude, straight fucking 250, 280, whatever it was. It was just... I was like, damn, man, this is cool. So then Seth goes up, man, cranks it, just shanks to the right, hits a door wall, boom, like the glass just breaks, And I was like, oh shit, and everybody's like, oh shit, man. It was nuts. But I had to tell that story because I hope he sees this. We always talk about it. He's like, you guys are never gonna let me live that down. I was like, oh no, no way. They could have it to anybody. And then after that, because the whole this whole course is through the subdivision, right? So I didn't even use my driver. I just used my 4-iron the rest of the time because I'm not, now it's in my head that, fuck, I don't want to do that, right? But even if I did, it wouldn't be in front of everybody. But it was good.
I was in Tampa about 3 years ago, and I promise, guys, this will be the last story. I know you guys are enjoying this, but Eric's got to go. So I was in Tampa, and I was on a par 3, and it ran alongside the road, right? And I take my 9-iron out. It was like 157 yards or something. Dude, I smoked this fucking ball, and it just starts trailing hard. Okay. Now this Lexus is coming down the street, and I'm like, it's not gonna. Is it gonna? Oh shit, that's gonna be close, right? You're watching this little ass ball, and then you look at the car, the ball.
Slow motion, like in the movie.
So it fucking bounced, dude. So and this Lexus had like that honeycomb looking grill. The fucking ball bounces and wedges right in this fucking grill. Yeah. He stops, and I'm like, oh shit. This is a young college kid. He's got like a fraternity license plate frame. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, just, send me a bill, whatever. I'll take care of it for you. He's like, oh, dude, it's all good, man. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, let me at least take care of it. He's like, it's all good. He fucking plucks it out of the grill.
Here's your ball,
like,
man.
Oh,
you're like, all right, see you later.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he threw me the ball. I was like, this is insane. Thank you so much. I thought for sure it was going to hit I'm like, with my luck, it's definitely going to hit the windshield.
Something about golf and etiquette and people and just getting out there in the open air and just people are cool, for the most part. People are,
Yeah.
It's a free place.
I commend his patience and his empathy because, what, if I'm driving down the road and the golf ball got wedged, I might initially be a little more pissed. Like, oh, come on, man, what the fuck?
Right.
Learn how to hit your clubs. Throw the ball back.
Especially the Lexus, too. It couldn't have been like an old beat-up car just like cruising down the road.
Yeah. You're the one college kid that's got money. Like, what the shit, dude? Unbelievable. Thanks again, dude. I had such a good time, and I look forward to creating some more content with you for sure. Definitely, we'll come to Detroit. Thank thank you to the audience. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure that you share it if you got a friend that will enjoy it. I'm telling you, they will.